Hi, I'm Daniel Madison and this is Ask Madison. 1 week ago today I put a video up which gave people the opportunity to ask me any question with a chance of it being answered in this video right here. So all people had to do was ask me anything on the social network, on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, personal messages, and all they had to do, the only instruction was to put hashtag Ask Madison. So I've spent the whole week searching for the hashtag Ask Madison, and I've collated and collected every single question asked. I'm going to try and answer as many questions as I can. There were too many to fit into one video, so I'm sorry if I don't answer your question, and thank you to everybody who asked a question. I'm going to try and answer the most relevant questions, or the ones that I find most relevant, and the ones that I feel that the answers will be the most valuable to you. Toby Hudson asks, is it just a mask, this tough guy you claim to be? Before I finish reading out the question, I never claim to be anything. I'm not trying to be. I don't know where you get that tough guy thing from. Maybe it's the tattoos, I don't know. But I guess when it comes to being a personality and a character, that there is a certain amount of masking or acting, but I just try and be myself, and videos and things like that I put out are very expressional, so I do choose to express a certain side of me rather than another side of me. So maybe that's why you see it as a mask, because not everybody's like that. That's just a part of me that I like to express in those videos on that platform that gives me a chance to share with people what I'm doing and what I'm into and what I see as a creative and artistic outlook platform. I understand that you went through a lot after being caught cheating, but are you exaggerating all of the tattoos and the gambling moves? I don't know how you exaggerate a tattoo or a gambling move. I love gambling. I'm not sure what you mean by that. You seem like quite a nice guy underneath. Thank you. I like to think that I am. I'm as helpful as I can be with everybody that I meet and my friends. So if you can find a person who tells you I'm not a nice guy, then I'll be the first to be having a word with them. Why do you try to hide it in your videos? So going back to what I just said, the videos that I make, it's an artistic outlet. It's like a vessel. It's a place for me to express my creativity on a platform that allows me to kind of share what I'm kind of thinking and doing, and the way that I like to see things. I like watching videos like the ones I make, and because I can't find them anywhere, I don't just settle for that. I don't just settle for the fact that I can't find the things I want to watch, so I create them. So I guess that kind of in a roundabout way answers your question, or even sidesteps, I don't know. But it's very, very interesting question, and you know, you've obviously thought a lot about the image and the tattoos, but I certainly don't try to be something that I'm not. I just express a certain part of me. Amerik Salomiak asks, what type of music do you listen to? I'm very open-minded. I'll listen to whatever inspires me at the time. I can listen to anything from classical music to hip-hop. I grew up on hip-hop and love hip-hop. But as for giving away what I listen to and what my favorite kind of tracks are, I find that's such a personal thing, and it's not something that I really want to share. It's like my favorite books. When someone says, what are your favorite books? I feel like if I share that information, I'm giving away a very personal thing, so I'm not going to go into detail on that. Emmett So, I think I said that right, Emmett So, what's your favorite part about the magic industry? I guess it's the few people I've met who I personally admire. Not necessarily for their tricks or for what they do or the books they've written or DVDs or anything like that. There are some very, very good and interesting people hiding in the magic industry. Not necessarily hiding, but you have to pay attention to find the right people. So I've met good people in the magic industry who aren't necessarily magicians or don't consider themselves magicians. There's definitely a human connection between, like, the reasons I got into it could be the same as the reasons the other guy got into it, and those two reasons may have nothing to do with magic, but they led those two people to be in that industry at the same time. So I think the best part of the magic industry is that it's a place to meet people who interest you and fascinate you. So yeah, so that's that. Dennis Tyan Can you teach a few table false cuts and tips for them? No, not in this video. But I do have a few new things on the way, a few nice false table shuffles. But that's a whole different project. Visalace Edward Robert. How many hours a day do you practice? I don't know. There's not a single answer to that. Whenever I'm not doing anything else, I'll have playing cards in my hands. So whatever that amounts to, I don't know. It's become such a, well, it is such a habit. I see playing cards as an extension of my fingers. If there's nothing in my hands start to itch and I need playing cards. So as most of the day as possible. Not intentionally. I don't decide, or I'm going to go upstairs and practice, or I'm going to go find my closest man and practice for an hour now. It's not like that. It's whenever my hands are empty and I'm not doing anything else. Aristos Galios asks, what is your creative process? I don't want to answer that in too much detail, but I will tell you that in Adam Wilber's book, Creative Magic, he invited me to be a guest writer and to write about my creative process. So if anything, I don't want to waste this time answering that same question, but I definitely recommend that book if you're looking into the creative side of magic and how to be more creative. There's a whole section by guest authors who Adam kindly invited to write about their creative process, and my creative process is in that book. Grey Amazing Reed, that's an amazing name. Grey Amazing Reed. To you, what made Cheaters so excellent? Cheater was where it kind of started for me. That was the starting point for everything. I'm not necessarily for magic and why I got into magic and how I got into magic, but that was the first place that I found where there were people like me. I was amazed that people like me were in that same fascination of a specific art. I didn't know people like me existed back then, and all of a sudden I found this website where you could film yourself doing something that you're good at and upload it, and everybody is helpful and has good things to say, and I made loads of friends, and there was this small community of people who became some of the most skilled people in the world, not including myself, but Boneho, he was kind of the guy back then with Cheater, and look what he went on to do. I was in New York recently working on a few projects, and I was out with Tony Chang, and Tony told me that he was one of the members back then. I was called the Rain Man, he was called Woodman, and we were great friends back then, but I only knew him as the Woodman. And when we were out drinking, he told me, and I was just blown away that like all this time I didn't know that it was him. So back then the Cheater community was a really big deal for me, and I really wish that the communities that you see today were as good and tight-knit and positive as Cheater used to be. And by the way, anybody who's watching who was part of Cheater and was a big part of that movement and remembers me and Tony and anybody else who was on there, get in touch with me. I'd love to hear from you, and maybe a Cheater reunion is long overdue. Andre Bohumau, why do you wear sunglasses in your videos? I have an obsession with sunglasses, and it's kind of due to me being like really sensitive to light. I'm very sensitive to light, so that's kind of where the obsession comes from. I can't leave the house without putting sunglasses on because the light just gets to my eyes, and especially when I'm in the studio with a big light, I've got kind of, I get frustrated otherwise. But saying that, that's not an excuse. That got me obsessed with sunglasses, and now I've got an amazing collection, and these are some of my favorites, these Elvis shades, and I just love to wear shades in any opportunity whatsoever. So especially on a video, it gives me an opportunity to wear the shades that I love. So here I am. Jordan Dyke, magic is dead. Why is it dead? How do you believe it could be brought back to life? Magic is dead is something that I've been saying for years and years now, right from the start, right when I got started in magic. And the idea comes from, magic doesn't exist, it's not real, therefore it's dead. Magic was never alive, it's dead. The trick is in convincing the participant, the spectator, the audience. The trick is in convincing them that magic is not dead, and convincing them that it is alive, that it is real. So that's the whole philosophy behind Magic is Dead, without going into too much detail. Caras A. Gonzalez Castillo, do you have a professional career? If not, what would you have liked to study? Believe it or not, this is my professional career. If it wasn't for this, if I always say this to people, if it wasn't for playing cards, I would be a criminal. Kevin Kaola asks, what advice would you give to those trying to do more in the magic industry? I guess it depends what you're trying to do, like what do you mean by more? But I'm going to answer the best I can. If you're talking about the magic industry in particular, I assume that you're asking, how do you get known and how do you get kind of out there? I think there's this kind of weird backwards thing that's happened, and it kind of reminds me of the music industry. And you hear kids in school like, oh, when I grow up I want to be a pop star. And it's a really backwards idea. Like, although it's not realistic, it's very possible. But the idea of being a pop star and a musician, the art and the skill must come first. You can't say I want to grow up and have an amazing voice. You've either got a good voice or not. To want to be well known and well liked in the magic industry is a bad thing to want. You shouldn't want that, because that's not what it's about. You don't want to become this rock star image, because magic isn't about that. Magic is not about the magician. It is never about the magician. It's about the audience and the participant that you're providing with an experience. You're giving them something. Like, it's your job to give. It's not your job to be stood there and take the image. I know that is a big part of it. Like, the image is a huge part of it. Like, if I turned up at a gig dressed as a clown, I wouldn't be taken seriously. So there is that, and there is the TV side of things where you see someone like Chris Angel. If Chris Angel didn't look the way he did, there might be a problem, or it might have gone a different way. Look at Troy. He's the best looking magician on TV, and that's a huge part of what he's done. But you're talking about TV magic. Like, these are TV people. Like, I class those as personalities. Like, Troy's a really good friend of mine, and he won't take offense to this. Troy is a personality who does magic on TV. That's how I see him. I don't see him as a magician who just happens to be good looking and can present things well. I think with a TV show and with things like that, if you've got the personality to carry it and the character to carry magic, then magic is your second thing. If you want to be known in the magic industry, be skillful, be creative, create something memorable, and then people will know you. If that's what you want, they will know you for your skill. You don't ever want to be known for your image, because style over substance will always lose. Arthur Checker, what is the meaning of life? Sun, sea, sand and sausages. Sakamoto Sama, how do you start earning a living performing what you do the best? No one's going to come along and give you a job at what you do. No one's going to come along and find you. You can't just sit at home in your bedroom being the best magician in the world, because no one's going to see it. You've got to put yourself out there. You've got to decide what it is you want to do, and you've got to create the steps. Nobody is going to come along and give you what you want. You have to get everything yourself. If you want something, you have to take it. You know, I didn't get to whatever position this is that I'm in at the minute. I didn't get here by accident. Everything was part of my plan. Everything was what I wanted, and I took all the relevant steps to get there. I don't want to give too much away about how I did it and the steps I took, but I do know that for a fact. Nobody will come and find you sat in your bedroom. No one will come and find you, not even on YouTube. You've got to put yourself in the right places with the right people, and it is a full-time job trying to get a full-time job at what you're passionate about. Mark Price, are you happy? Of course I'm happy. George Sanders, when reading Artifice, Ruse and Subterfuge back in your casino days, what did you do with the non-gambling moves like diagonal palm shift and tricks like cards or hat? Very relevant question, but I'll answer it in a very different way. When you read a book, or when you read any source of information that's going to teach you something that's relevant to you, you take and you keep the bits that are relevant to you, and the rest of it you kind of forget, and there's no real process for that. There's no decision that can be made other than when you read it. If I'm wanting to study let's say a center deal, and I'm reading a book that's teaching it, and then the next chapter is sponge balls, I'm not going to read that chapter. It's as simple as that. You just focus on what you want to learn and why you want to learn it, and you decide at that moment in time, or at least you I guess you've already made a decision before you got into reading that kind of stuff, you know. But I certainly won't want to read SpongeBob Magic if that's not what I'm into. So it's a very simple answer to that intricate question. Dominic Smith, I read on your bio that you have an interest in memory work and you use this to beat casinos. Can you tell us more about this, please? I did once have a serious obsession with memory, and I did try and find ways, just like most people who do what I do, I did try and find ways to beat the system as it was. But you know, I don't want to go into that too much. But yeah, memory can be very useful. I see memory as something that gets used up, and because I've used my memory so much, I think that's what's responsible for my bad memory today. My memory's got very bad over the years. Chris Annabelle, videos have fairly limited angles. What methods do you have to ensure all your slides stay shaded from multiple angles in live demonstrations? I don't, to be honest, I don't try and cover anything up. I don't. You've got to be very aware of your angles, of course, and the person that learns a move without considering the angles shouldn't be doing the move. But if you've got good management of the performance or the thing that you're trying to execute, if you can manage that very move well, then it means you've already taken into consideration the angles. And if somebody's sat at the bad angle, then you either adapt to the person or you force the person to adapt to you. But when it comes to angles, I like to make a point of this. Whenever I'm with magicians or whenever I'm with cardmen in live situations where they ask the same question, I always find a way to show them how I do card to pocket. Like I use a gambler's cop, and whenever I can, I even do this for fun sometimes if I'm doing card to pocket for a specific individual. When they're not looking, I will hold the copped card up to show everybody that I'm palming a card, because it's fun to everybody to see. It's fun for everybody to see what I'm doing, yet the person I'm doing it to can't see it. And I can even hold my hands up like this right in front of people sometimes, and they won't see it because people don't see what they're not looking for. And it's your job to kind of control where they're looking. I like what Apollo Robbins said when he described what he does. He said it's not misdirection, it's more direction management. So you're managing where the person's looking rather than trying to misdirect them. Instead of saying don't look there, you're saying look here. But I don't want to teach his lessons. He's a master of what he does, and he's somebody to look into if you're worried about angles. Christopher Oberly, would you rather, my good friend Chris, would you rather change gender every time you sneeze or not be able to tell the difference between a baby and a muffin? That's a very, very philosophical and deep question, and I think I would rather change gender every time I sneezed. I think that'd be more fun than not being able to tell the difference between a baby and a muffin. Joshua Cybernela, if you had unlimited funds and materials to make the best gimmick ever, what would it be and what would it do? I would point you in this direction. The Advocate. All you need is a deck of playing cards, and you have an incredible tool. In my unbiased opinion, you have an incredible tool. Have very little money. Krishna Pati Bayu, are you a magician or not? I'm not a magician. I never put myself out there as a magician or claim to be one. And it's not because some people misunderstand that and think that I'm saying that because a magician is not a cool term or it's not a cool thing. It's not about that for me. I don't care if it's cool or not. I don't think it's fair for me to call myself a magician because I'm not. I don't perform magic. I don't do magic tricks. I'm obsessed with sleight of hand, which is used to magic, and which is why I can teach magic, because I know how to apply sleight of hand to magic. But that doesn't make me a magician because I don't perform magic. Michael Shields, what is your favourite song to sing? Probably Light My Fire by The Doors. Another question from Michael Shields, are illusionists pressuring you into releasing so many decks, colours, variations for money? Let's get one thing clear. So I work for Ellusionist, I work with Ellusionist. I don't like calling it a job because we're a team and we all have the same goal, and we're all fortunate enough to be in a position to try and achieve the same goal. And and the playing cards are all a part of that machine that we've created. So yes, I make a living, but specifically from playing cards, no. The payment that I get for the playing cards is more valuable than money, and that's being able to have my own playing cards in my pocket. Malik Hussein, there's a card on the table, both your hands are seemingly empty. What would your preferred card switch be? Anybody who's not looked into Father Alex on hand mucking, check it out. It is the best I've seen. He does the DL muck, or the DL switch, and that's available from Vanishing Ink, and it is incredible. It's the best mucking I've seen. That is what I would do. This is from Matt Barnett. I saw a quote from Madison said, player, rounder, dealer, gambler, hustler, loser. So your deck names directly match the quote, even in order of releasing decks. Will there ever be Madison losers? No, there's more. I just happened to open it on that page too. Madison said 78. There's more to it than that. You're right. It does follow the playing card names idea, but it also kind of follows up a question that got asked a few questions back about playing cards. So in a way, you're right, but there won't be any Madison losers. That last word means something completely different. Abdullah Obaid. I'm sorry if I'm saying people's names wrong. Terrible reading. Abdullah Obaid. If you could meet with Ernest, what would you say to him? And what would you expect him to say about you? I wouldn't want to meet Ernest. I wouldn't want to meet people like that. The same kind of reasoning goes into it. You know what, I like that saying, never meet your heroes. I think there's something in that. I think a lot of people who have met their heroes can kind of understand why I've said that. Ernest, everybody's got their own idea of who he was and who he is and what he was like. For all we know, he might have been an asshole, you know. Yet we hold him up in this light, like the way that people look at me, and they create a certain image of me based on the videos they've seen and whatnot. But you know, people don't really know me in real life because they're limited to the videos that I show them, or the appearances that I make, or the questions that I respond to. So we've only got a very limited amount of information to judge people like Ernest on. So I wouldn't want to meet him because there's something in keeping that mystery. And I didn't like it when people started looking into who he was and people started figuring out who he was, because it was kind of damaging to the mystery of it. And I prefer to just know that the book's there and it was written and this happened and nobody knows this, that and the other. I prefer that than reading the books that explain who he was and where he lived and he had 100 kids, whatever. I don't know. I don't want to hear that stuff. I just want to know that the book exists and it means what it means to me. So yeah, I wouldn't want to meet him. And as for what he'd have to say about me, I don't really care. You know, I don't really care what anybody says about me, as long as there's a smile on my face, which there's always a smile on my face. Joshua Tree. How are babies made? I think it's got something to do with alcohol and ugliness. Zagan Hall from Bradford. What do you do when you get frustrated at a move? I think I've developed a way of learning, which I think everybody does eventually, where you learn not to be frustrated, and which is a weird thing to say. If you're getting frustrated at something and you get angry with it, then you're going to associate that kind of negativity with the move. When you get frustrated because it's not working, if it's not working, maybe you're doing something wrong. That's the way I see it. If it doesn't work in my hands, then there's something that I need to change about the move, or something I need to change about my hands or the cards. You got to bear in mind that every move you ever learn has been taught by an individual, and his fingers might be twice as long as yours, and his hands might be twice as wide or twice as small as yours. So he's going to explain it in the way that fits his hands. And a lot of magicians, I think, when they're teaching, especially when it comes to intricate like card moves, I think they forget that everybody's hands are different and everybody has different stretches and different ways of doing things. So you've got to kind of make the move adapt to you. Don't stick to the instructions. Use them as a blueprint, as guidelines, and then take what you can from it. As long as you know that, for example, this card has to end up here and this is how he does it, you try to achieve the same thing in your way and try and get it as close to his instructions as you can. If you need to change things about that, as long as the move or the effect isn't compromised, then I don't see any problem with that. Ways around frustration, just try and be calm and realize that everything that you're practicing and that you're doing will pay off in the end if you put the time and effort into it. Frustration won't help. And one more question. This video is quite long, so I'm going to end with Bryce Hayes. Why did you make the gaff deck? In which, I'm not going to answer that because the answer is on the Madison Gamblers DVD. And you can also find that answer to that kind of hidden in the trailer and in the discussion videos that are online. So that's it from me. So thank you so much for everybody who asked questions and took part in this, and I apologize if I got your names wrong, and I'm sorry that I didn't get to answer every single question, but thank you so much for taking part in this. The Ask series doesn't belong to me. This is just the first, so hashtag Ask Madison was this one. The next one will be a different artist, and we'll announce who that is very soon. Hashtag Ask coming soon. I am Daniel Madison. This is Ask Madison.